Hey everyone, welcome back to my channel. If this is your first time here, my name's Zoe and this is Found Finances. I've been noticing recently that in the videos that I'm talking about my student loan journey or about loans in general, I'm really assuming that everyone who's watching this knows what a loan is and how a loan works, regardless of if it's a student loan specifically. So I wanted to take the time today to go over just that and talk about the basics of understanding what a loan is and how loans work. So if you're someone who's already familiar with the basics of loans, you can go ahead and skip this video and move on to one of the next ones. But I also would encourage you to stick around because it's always helpful to get a little refresher on the ins and outs and intricacies of how loans work. This will be more of a generalized, just talking about the basics of loaning things out. And I'll be going into more of the specifics of specific types of loans and the different aspects of loans that you need to be paying attention to in later videos, just to give you a heads up. But I think that's it. Let's get into the video. So everything I'm going to say right now applies to any type of loan in general, but I will be using student loans as kind of my case study, just like as an example point that I'll keep referring back to just as a heads up. So I know for me back in high school when I was looking to go to colleges, I didn't really understand what a student loan was. I didn't understand how I got one, what the different kinds out there were, what they even really did, or how they'd impact me later down the road. I won't be able to get to all of that in one video, but I thought we'd start with the basics and then work our way up. So the first question is, what is a loan, right? So in general, regardless of if you're using it to pay for a car or a house or for your education, a loan is quote unquote borrowed money that you'll be repaying over time. That over time part is also really important when you are actually taking out a loan, and I'll get to that in later videos, but basically that over time, that time horizon is something that you and the lender, the person who's lending you that money, will agree on. So you'll say, I'm taking this money and it's gonna take me 10 years of paying you back $10 a month to get you the money that you let me borrow initially. If that didn't make sense, that's okay, don't worry about it. The main essence is that loans are borrowed money from somebody else. Now, in addition to repaying the amount you borrowed, there is a fee that is most often always associated with loans, and that fee is known as interest. Again, we'll cover interest specifically. It deserves its own video, but it is crucial to understanding the basics of how loans work. So here's an example of how loans kind of work in like a made-up, make-believe world. So say that you can't afford to pay for gas today. So you ask your friend in the passenger seat to cover the gas for the day. And your friend says, yeah, totally, that's fine. So that's you borrowing money, or initially, right? They're loaning you that $40 it takes to fill up your tank. But in addition, your friend says, I don't just want the $40 back, I also want a slushie. So you'd have to go into the gas station and buy them a slushie and also pay them that $40. So that's a super simplified version of how loans work, right? There wasn't a payment horizon of how long it would take for you to pay them back that $40. There wasn't a percentage of that initial payment that was your interest. It was a slushie, not some more money. I mean, it was technically maybe like $3. So student loans act in the exact same way as this general loan concept I've been talking about, though this money is used specifically to pay for education costs. And instead of your friend loaning you that money, you can take out a student loan from a few different places. A lot of student loans come from the federal government, usually the Department of Education, and they can also come from state government as well. So that's your public lenders. Public institutions, usually anything related to the government is known as a public institution. And then there's your private lenders. These are usually the scarier guys, the guys that you need to watch out for who will exploit you for as much money as they can. These are private credit unions, these are private banks, these are just private lenders in general, so Sallie Mae, Discover, just to name a few. The main difference between private and public lenders is that public lenders, like the government, will usually have a relatively lower interest rate. So what you pay them in addition to your initial statement, so you take out $1,000, you're gonna have to pay them more than $1,000. That additional amount will be less than what you'll usually get from a private lender whose interest rates can go upwards of 13%, whereas federal loans usually hang out around 4 or 5%. If you wanted to take out a loan from the federal government, you would fill out the FAFSA application, which stands for Free Application for Federal Student Aid. So that'll ask you things about your household income and other information related, usually to your parents' finances, to kind of get a grip and understanding of where you guys are at financially and what kind of aid you might need in order to successfully go to college or pay for college. All right, so I'm going to stop there in terms of getting too specific because I want this video to be something accessible for people who aren't just interested in student loans, but that's just an excellent way of understanding the different options of how to take out a loan and how in this student loan world, how that interest rate can differ between public, private, and how loans can be specifically allotted for specific things like cars, like homes, like education. The next video I'm going to be coming out with is federal loans versus private loans, which ones are better and what are the pros and cons of these things. So if that's something that's interesting to you, stick around for that. But if you liked this video, please subscribe and give it a thumbs up. And if you have any questions or comments about what I talked about in this video, don't hesitate to put them in the comments below and I'll be sure to respond. Thanks so much. I'll see you guys later.